Why, hello! It's Miss Gina. Yes, and it's March 10th. Daylight savings time begins today. And I'm hearing that tomorrow people are going to be celebrating Johnny Appleseed Day. So some kids are going to dress up like Johnny Appleseed at their schools tomorrow. That should be interesting. Johnny Appleseed planted apple tree seeds everywhere he went. It's a really cute story. I think they're going to wear like overalls and a pot on their head. That's what I'm hearing. So we've been reading about a dog wish made by a boy named Max. And we're on chapter 8 of a book called Wishworks Inc. And this is a story. You're at story time with Miss Gina. Hello, I'm Miss Gina. And this is Gina's Planet. And I'm glad you're here. So Max has made a wish at a store that it was guaranteed to bring him a dog. He had a daydreamed up dog named King that protected him and sat by his side and was a really good, loyal dog. And so he's trying to find that dog, and he has gotten a dog that he calls Ratty, because this is a girl dog. He wanted a boy dog, and he is trying to find a way to get King, his imaginary dog, out of his wish. So we're going to find out if he does. Find. That is our word. Story is brought to you by the word find. Find. We're on chapter 8 of Wishworks Inc. And that's page 60. When Max got home from school, he found that Ratty had chewed the ears off of his old teddy bear and made a puddle on the floor of his closet. Mother came home early from work, bringing a red collar and matching leash, a ball, a rawhide chew toy, and a bag of dog food. "It isn't her fault," she said, when he complained about the puddle in his closet. "I should have had you take her out before we left. From now on, you're going to have to walk her every morning until she's finished doing her business, and then again as soon as you come home from school," she told him. "And there's a pooper scooper law, so you'll have to take a trowel and a plastic bag along with you." "You mean I have to pick up her poop and bring it home?" "You can put it in the nearest trash can. I'll walk her one last time every night before I go to bed." From then on, Max was in charge of the dog. He had to get up half an hour early to walk her before school. He carried the trowel and the plastic bag for Ratty's poop in the grocery bag. It was embarrassing. At first, he tried to make believe it was King he was walking, but it didn't work. Ratty was nothing at all like King. Even with a leash, Ratty didn't walk nicely at his side. She dragged him first one way and then another. She was little, but she was all muscle. And he very quickly learned that Ratty didn't like to chase just Alibaba. So we're on page 62 and 63. So Alibaba's not the only cat that Ratty likes to chase. She liked to chase anything that ran. Outside, that was mostly squirrels. If she saw a squirrel across the street, Max had to grab hold of the lamppost or wedge himself against a parked car to keep from being pulled into traffic. Sometimes while they walked, he tried to pretend he was a spy. There were lots of people walking their dogs every morning. A spy might walk a dog to blend in, so whoever he was spying on wouldn't notice him. But a spy would never have a dog like Ratty. Everybody noticed Ratty. She barked a lot. She barked at other dogs. She barked at pigeons. She barked at people carrying anything that smelled like food. and she tried to jump up on them to get it. People frowned at her and shook their heads. They frowned at Max. He had to spend half their walks apologizing to strangers. By the third day, some of them weren't strangers anymore. They knew Ratty and they knew Max. They waved newspapers or shook briefcases at them to keep them away. Some of them took to crossing the street to avoid them. The worst part of their walk was passing La Rosa's Italian grocery and wine shop. Ratty whined and yelped and jumped at the window where cheeses of all sizes and shapes and piles of sausages were displayed. She seemed to be able to smell them through the glass. It was all Max could do to drag her away. A big man with a thick black mustache came to the window and shook his huge fist at them sometimes. There was one little old lady they saw every morning, though. She seemed to like the dog. Max thought she might be crazy. She carried the bone-shaped biscuits in her pockets and would dig some out as soon as she saw them coming. She would stop in front of them on the sidewalk. "Sit," she would say to Ratty in a high, thin voice. Ratty made her skinny rat tail go around and around in circles, but she never sat. The woman threw her 3 biscuits anyway, one at a time. Ratty would catch them right out of the air. Max had to give the dog a little credit for that at least. She never missed. "Good dog," the woman always said. "She's smart enough," she added one day. "You should take her to obedience school." Max just nodded. King would never have to go to obedience school, he thought. At home, Ratty chased Ali Baba. Yapping gleefully, she chased him down the hall. She chased him around the kitchen. She chased him under the chairs and the couch. When she came out, she chased him onto and over the couch, scattering pillows. She chased him into Polly's room and out again. She chased him right over Mrs. Chang while she was watching her TV talk show. Mrs. Chang didn't get mad. She thought it was funny. Whenever Max poured dog food into her bowl, Ratty heard the sound and came as fast as she could. Her claws skidding on the kitchen tiles. Her skinny rat tail went around and around. She yipped with excitement and jumped all over him. Sometimes she nearly knocked the bowl out of his hands before he could put it on the floor. "Why can't Polly feed her sometimes?" he asked Mother. "Why can't Polly walk her?" "Polly's too little," Mother said. She was right, Max thought with a sigh. Polly could never handle Ratty. Excuse me. It was all he could do to handle her himself. Ratty was probably the worst dog in the whole entire world. Nobody else agreed with him. Polly thought she was adorable. Whenever Polly called her, the dog would flop down on the floor and beg for a tummy rub. Ratty loved it when Polly rubbed her tummy. Polly dressed her in doll clothes and tried to get her to ride in a stroller. When Ratty jumped out of the stroller and pulled the doll clothes off with her teeth, Polly only laughed and rubbed her tummy some more. Then Ratty would jump up and lick Polly on the nose, waggling all over. The dog looked particularly ugly when she was waggling all over, Max thought. Mother liked the dog almost as much as Polly did. She let Ratty sit on the couch while she was reading and even shared peanuts with her. Ratty caught the peanuts in midair too. Max told Mother that Ratty chased the cat too much. Ali Baba could have a heart attack, he warned. "I doubt it," Mother said. "This morning I saw Ali Baba lying in wait behind the couch. He pounced on her when Goldie went by. After that, you couldn't tell who was chasing whom. I haven't seen him this active since he was a kitten. I think he may be losing weight. Goldie's good for him too. I get exercise walking her every night. Who knew that we all wanted a dog?" Excuse me. They were all crazy, Max thought, and Ratty chewed. She chewed on her rawhide toy, and of course, but that wasn't all. She chewed on the corners of the boxes in Max's room. Once, when he came home, she had chewed clear through the cardboard on one of them and pulled out his favorite night action figure. Then she had chewed his head off. Max began unpacking the boxes so he could put his things up on his shelves where they would be safe. One day, a second-grade girl asked Polly to sit with her, so Max went to the back of the bus and sat down beside Jerome Fisher. "Hi," he said. "Is it okay if I sit here?" "Sure." Max didn't know what else to say. A scuffle started between some older kids and the bus. And the bus driver yelled at them. They wouldn't do that if your father was on the bus. "No," Jerome said. "It must be great to have a policeman for a father," Max said. "It's okay," Jerome said, "but Mom worries about him a lot." "Oh, I tell her he's a hero and nobody has to worry about heroes. What does your dad do?" "He's a salesman," Max said. Nobody has ever heard of a hero salesman, he thought. "He lives in Chicago." "Oh, is that dog I saw you walking one day yours?" "Rats," Max thought. He had hoped nobody from school would ever see him with Ratty. He shook his head. "I was just walking her for the family she lives with." "I've always wanted a dog," Jerome said, "for as long as I can remember." "Can't you have one?" Max asked. Jerome shook his head. "No way, my mom's allergic. The only pet I can have is a goldfish. His name is Sam. He's boring." Max nodded. "My mom likes dogs, at least," he thought. "She likes one dog." And then before he could stop himself, he heard himself saying, "I have a big dog with a plume of a tail. His name is King." "You're lucky," Jerome said. "Yeah." Why, Max wondered later, had he lied? What if Jerome saw him walking Ratty again and again? And what if he wanted to know why he never saw him walking King? Max couldn't very well tell him that even if he was walking King, Jerome wouldn't be able to see him. It was all Ratty's fault, Max thought. If she wasn't in his life, he wouldn't have had to lie. But the very worst thing about Ratty was what she did to Adventure Time. After dinner and homework, when Max settled on his bed to make up his stories, Ratty jumped up too. She climbed into his lap and licked his face. She had terrible breath. Terrible breath. He had to wipe his face on his pillowcase to get her spit off. As soon as he closed his eyes and started to get quiet, Ratty would claw at his arms to get his attention. Before he could even start imagining a story, she would drop her ball in his lap. Then she would jump down off the bed and yip yip until he threw it for her. No matter how hard he threw it or how high it bounced, Ratty could jump up and snatch it out of the air. If somehow she missed and it went under his dresser, she whined till he got up and dug it out for her. By the time she was tired of playing and would leave him alone, Max was too sleepy to stay awake long enough for an adventure. Max looked forward to school every day. There was no Ratty at school. Max could have King with him instead. It was taking a long time for the rest of the class to learn borrowing and carrying, so during math, here he is with Ratty on him. He can't make up his stories. He likes to imagine and daydream. Max and King were on page 72. Max and King could go up in the space shuttle. They could conquer invading armies of goblins. They could hunt tigers in the jungle or terrorists in the city. They could have little kids who fell into fast-running streams and get medals for bravery. Nick stole Max's homework from his cubby one day, but he only hid it. He didn't chew it all. Nick stole Max's homework from his cubby one day, but he only hid it. He didn't chew it all up and leave slimy wet bits of it all over the floor. When Rocco or Lewis bumped into Max in the hall or crashed into him on the playground, they didn't leave claw scratches on his arms and legs. One night, Max woke up shivering. He had tried to make Ratty sleep on the floor, but she liked his bed better. He remembered how he had wanted King to sleep on his bed, the way Ali Baba used to keep him warm with his long dog body. But Ratty had turned around and around and around and scratched at his quilt until she made herself a comfortable nest. Max was left with nothing but the sheet. Ratty's head was draped across his arm. His hand had fallen asleep, and he could feel his fingers. He couldn't feel his fingers, like when you move them, they tingle. Well, they've gone numb where his hand has fallen asleep. Something, he thought, has to be done. And that was the end of our story, chapter 8. And we're on page 73. And next time we'll start with when Max was walking Ratty after school the next day. He saw Jerome on the sidewalk across the street. That'll be chapter 9. Chapter 9 begins on page 74. So I hope you liked that. I hope you enjoyed it. So we didn't find King, not a real live king, but we have found a dog named Ratty. Well, it's Goldie. Mom calls it Goldie. Max calls it Ratty. And so I hope you enjoyed that so far. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.